It's been 36 years since the juice has been set loose. Beetlejuice is back in the long-awaited sequel, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Full of practical filmmaking and characters we dearly missed, Tim Burton's best film in years is king at the box office. Let's break down Beetlejuice Beetlejuice.
What's up, movie friends? Welcome back to Raiders of the Lost Podcast, the ultimate film and TV podcast. And today we're breaking down the long-awaited legacy sequel, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Now, the legacy sequel, it's super rare to pull off. Top Gun Maverick did it, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice did it, and then I'd say maybe one or two other films pulled off this legacy sequel of a movie made more than a few decades after the original. And, you know, this movie's not perfect, but honestly, I had a really great time in the theater. I laughed my ass off. I thought it was silly. I thought it was fun. It was a little dumb, but I walked into this film with very low expectations, and I was like, I'm not expecting like an earth-shattering, beautiful story here, and I don't need an Oscar-nominated screenplay, and I just wanted to revisit the world, revisit Beetlejuice and the other characters that we love from the original, and that's exactly what I got. And this film is actually pretty polarizing. It's a 3.4 on Letterboxd. It's a 7 on IMDb, so it's a little divisive with fans. Some people hate it. Some people love it. I was just like, I had a good time. But on top of that, it was pretty creative, and there were some fun surprises along the way that kept me interested and kept me entertained from start to finish.
Obviously, it's not going to top or match the original film. The original is a classic, but let's not act like the original Beetlejuice movie is an all-time film. It's so fun. It's crazy. It's wholly unique and original. And that's what this was in a lot of ways. It just brought us back to the world. And heading into this film, I wouldn't say I've been so excited. I can't wait. I'm dying to see this film. Not until a few days leading up to my screening, when I saw it last week, I finally got really excited. And then heading to the theater, I was juiced up. I was listening to Beetlejuice on the way.
I gave you my seal of approval, too.
Well, yeah, of course. You had the seal of approval.
No, I was just like, no, it was actually good. I was like, it's actually a good time.
Yeah. Well, I was going to see it anyways, but that's a good point.
Yeah.
You did, Anthony, yeah, you're right, man. You did give me your seal of approval. You were like, hey, man, you're going to like it.
Yeah.
And I did. I had a lot of fun. As soon as the opening credits started rolling, we heard Danny Elfman's music, bump, 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 and then we're doing the sky shots over the town that looks like a miniature in a lot of ways. I was smiling ear to ear, man. I was having a lot of fun. And I think this is Tim Burton's best film in years. Best film in a while.
Since Sweeney Todd.
Probably.
Best film since Sweeney Todd.
He's been very inconsistent since then, obviously making a lot of very big films, Alice in Wonderland and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Dark Shadows.
So
yeah.
I think that it was great for him to go back to his roots in terms of practical filmmaking, less visual effects dependent on CGI, which obviously a lot of those movies were, especially Alice in Wonderland. But this one felt like, all right, let's go back to the way we were making movies in the 1990s and the 1980s, with obviously the help of some CGI here and there, plenty of it. But overall, a lot of this film was just like a classical film. So much practical, so much in camera. I love going back to the lighting schemes of just the simple blues, reds, greens, yellows on characters and backgrounds and rooms and the afterlife. Expanding on the lore of the afterlife was a lot of fun. Following characters and seeing characters that we loved from the first film, as well as Charles, the fun little stop motion of what happened to his character. And I think not being afraid to put stop motion in a movie was a really brave thing to do for this film, because a lot of people, I guess, would argue that the stop motion isn't digestible for audiences anymore, but I think it works fine.
Absolutely. And this movie had a budget of $100 million, but you would think it was more because there's so much visual effects in it. But like you said, the visual effects, for the most part, were done practically, which is way cheaper than CGI. And it looks better for something like this. We want to see that stop motion. That's part of like the DNA of the Beetlejuice movie. The original is all the stop motion. And so if they go, I'm really glad Tim Burton didn't make this in the 2000s and 2010s, when he was really heavily relying on CGI. For even films like Mrs. Peregrine's School with Ava Green. That's a ton of CGI for all the monsters and villains. I'm so glad that he reached this point of his career where I remember interviews saying he was feeling bored with filmmaking, feeling lack of inspiration, and then the Wednesday show rejuvenated him a little bit. But then the production of this film, he basically said, made him fall in love with filmmaking again. And it's because I think that he's such a creative filmmaker who's always worked tangibly with his hands, but then making so many films with blue screens and green screens and nothing there on set. I'm sure that was like the best way to in his eyes to do those films, but it must have taken away the passion and the energy and the artistic creativity on set, because you can't really be that creative when you're reliant on, pre-viz, already set up your shots, and you already know where the CGI is going to happen. So I'm sure with things like this, you get to be improvisational, you get to have a lot more fun. And I read interviews with the cast with him. They described Tim Burton as being someone who's open to collaboration and always asking to try new things and seeing what the actors had in mind. And I think he learned that obviously working with Keaton in the first film with so much improv that he did. I think he realized throughout his career, like, with Johnny Depp, let the actors really help guide their characters. And I think it was really fantastic. I love the returning cast. I love where when the movie started, I was like, okay, where are all the characters right now? 36 years later, I was really curious how everyone would start off in this film. And I just gotta say, I loved Lydia Deetz as a ghost hunter. Like
really
her,
smart.
the green, what do you call that kind of footage at nighttime? Night vision. The green night vision of her invading a home that's haunted, and I was cracking up. It got me. And she hosts a show, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. I mean, she makes fun of herself for selling out. Young Lydia wouldn't have sold out, but she's probably needs money, and so she's using her talents. But I thought it was really a really great start for Lydia being this famous ghost hunter on TV. And I really adored that. And then Catherine O'Hara's Delia still being an artist, but like she's super famous now, but even more pretentious. And I loved where these characters we know start off in this film. I think they did a really fun time with it.
Obviously, Beetlejuice was directed by Tim Burton, written by Alfred Goff, Miles Millar, Seth Grahame-Smith. IMDb, it's a 7.1. Rotten Tomatoes, 76%. Critic score, 82%. Audience score on a production budget of $100 million and a marketing budget of $100 million also.
Woo!
It's already grossed $145 million at the global box office in its opening weekend, 110 domestic and North America. So a massive, massive hit. This is going to be one of the biggest hits of the year. And like I said, I think it's Tim Burton's best film in a while. And I like how you brought up legacy sequels earlier, because we're getting so many of them. Some of them really do a good job. Some of them are fine, and some we didn't need. And when Beetlejuice 2 first got announced, I wondered, did we really need this? But as long as the right people were attached to it, then I was fine with it. But this has been in the development stage for technically since 1990. Beetlejuice came out in 1988. We talked about in our Beetlejuice episode last week how they had a sequel written. 2 sequels were actually written. So we had Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian was written. But then there was another script that I'll talk about in a minute. So after the success of Beetlejuice, sequels were fast-tracked by the Geffen Film Company, and so 2 scripts were commissioned in 1990. The first was Beetlejuice in Love, penned by screenwriter Warren Scarron, who did a heavy rewrite on the first film's original script. In Scarron's sequel, Beetlejuice meets Leo, who tragically plummets to his death while proposing to his girlfriend, Julia, on the Eiffel Tower. When Leo enters the afterlife, Beetlejuice escapes to the world of the living and pursues Julia.
That's a pretty failed engagement right there.
Scarron died shortly after turning in his first draft of the In Love script. That same year, we talked about last episode of Beetlejuice, how Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian was on the table. We had Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder agreed to do the film. However, Tim Burton opted to move on and do Batman Returns instead. But he wanted to fuse surfing with the backdrop of beaches with German expressionism, which is pretty funny. And it works so well because they're so wrong together.
That would be ridiculous. And
then in 1993, producer David Geffen, obviously who produces the Beetlejuice movies, I'm assuming he owns the property, hired Pamela Norris from Troop Beverly Hills and Saturday Night Live to rewrite a new script of Beetlejuice for a sequel. Went flat. 1996, Warner Brothers approached Kevin Smith to rewrite the script, though he turned it down in favor of writing Superman Lives, which was another Tim Burton that never got made. I would love to do an episode on that.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Kevin Smith made a whole podcast episode describing the entire production in detail.
Yeah, and then there's that documentary, Superman Lives, which is really cool. It'd be fun to do movies that have never been made.
Never happened.
The best movies that never got made. October 2017, this is 21 years later, Mike Vukanovich was hired to finally write a new version of a script for a sequel to Beetlejuice. And then in April 2019, Warner Brothers stated that the sequel had been shelved, got put up, and we're not going to do this anymore. Until February 2022, a sequel was announced again, this time produced by Brad Pitt's Plan B production company, Plan B Entertainment, alongside Warner Brothers. And I'm assuming that's why they named one of the shrunken head guys was named Brad. I'm assuming it's for Brad Pitt.
That's great.
And then Burton stated in October 22 that he was not involved in the project. However, backtracked later saying nothing is out of the question. Burton ultimately returned as the film's director and tried to strip everything from the story to go back to the basics of working with good people, actors, and puppets, feeling that the project made him reflect on why he liked making movies, like Anthony talked about earlier, going back to the roots. Mm-hmm. And then Burton came up with the film's story upon thinking of Lydia Deetz, a character who he felt connected to as a teenager. What would her life be like? And then we have this teenage daughter who hates her, and she's an effed up adult who hosts this ghost medium-related show called Ghost House with Lydia Deetz. Then in March 2023, it was reported that Variety that Jenna Ortega, who just worked with Burton on the series Wednesday, was in talks to play Astrid Deetz. And then Burton was then expected to direct the film, and it all got confirmed. So it took 30 freaking 4 years to get this going.
Long fucking time.
And finally, but it went through so many different versions, so many different drafts, so many different shelvings. But
I like how it's something that has. You're right. It has always been in development.
It's always been around.
It's not like it was like, oh, we have this IP. Let's reset it.
Even back in 2013, 2014, they thought they were going to make it. And Winona Ryder was ready to go. She was being very secretive during interviews for press for other things. But then she eventually said, yeah, we're actually going to make it back in 2013. However,
for Stranger Things or The Things?
Right before Stranger Things. Okay. But then it got shelved again. And then when she got cast in Stranger Things, so Winona Ryder, when she was making her when Winona Ryder was making her negotiations to join Netflix's Stranger Things as Joyce Byers around mid-2015, Winona accepted the role under the sole request with the Duffer Brothers that if Beetlejuice, the sequel, ever got greenlit with Burton, she was going to be able to not be in production for Stranger Things and be able to leave to go make that film. So no matter what, while she was doing Stranger Things, she made a contract negotiation that if Beetlejuice, the sequel, came up, she had to go do that. And the Duffer Brothers obviously agreed.
They were like, this show's getting made with $14 million this season, so yeah, please.
And it's Winona Ryder.
I can't believe how old Stranger Things is.
20.
They started production that long ago on the first season. Wow.
Oh my gosh.
That's unbelievable.
Well, I mean, they're all grown up.
Yeah, it's crazy. Also,
they're all like 50 years old. Winona, 11's 80. Her new name for season 5 is going to be 80.
71. Also, Jenna Ortega was actually... she was convinced to do Wednesday by Tim Burton, and Netflix had offered her the show Wednesday 3 times, and she kept rejecting it. Obviously, Wednesday blew her up. She became the it girl of last year. Ironically, she didn't want to do it because she said she only wanted to act in films. But Tim Burton actually spoke to her directly and convinced her to do it because he felt she was right for the role. So I think that's proof that there's certain actors that fit into the Tim Burton mold, just like Wes Anderson actors. Like, there's a reason why Wes Anderson often casts the same actors. Yeah, they're all pals, but also it's a very specific kind of acting, and if you can't do it right, it messes up the whole vibe of the movie. The actors in the Wes Anderson movie need to be able to walk that line of his tone. Same thing with Tim Burton, I think, especially movies like this, where Johnny Depp did it so perfectly, Keaton did it perfectly, obviously, and Winona's done it as well. It's a very specific tone, and especially his archetypes of characters. And so I think Jenna Ortega has that certain kind of ability as an actor that he looks for, which made her a perfect choice to be the young actor in this movie, I think.
I think she was a great selection, and she was a terrific sort of lead or co-lead in this film with Winona Ryder, who seemed to be the main character.
Yeah, that's
of the movie.
We predicted. We were like, it still has to be like Lydia's story. She's like the centerpiece of the story.
Yeah, she's as much a part of Beetlejuice as Beetlejuice is. Now, the plot of this movie is pretty good, but there are some cons to it, which we'll talk about in a minute. So let's run through the plot. So 3 generations of the Deetz family return home to Winter River after Charles Deetz, Lydia's father, and Astrid's grandfather, passes away after getting eaten by a shark.
I love this stop motion animation.
It was a lot of fun.
It was great.
And if people are wondering why the actor who plays Charles Deetz, Jeffrey Jones, why he's not in the film, it's because he had been arrested in 2003 for explicit photos of a minor. So He got arrested a long time ago. That's why he just disappeared from Hollywood, because he was pretty big in the 80s and 90s. I mean, he's the principal.
Ferris
Ferris
yeah.
Bueller. And so Charles Deetz in Beetlejuice appears in the film portrayed and voiced by an uncredited actor, in addition to using the likeness of the original actor Jeffrey Jones through various means, including archival photos, paintings, and an animated sequence that describes the character's death. The character's death was inspired by a nightmare of Tim Burton's about his own death, and it deservedly so death for the things that Jeffrey Jones did in real life, obviously.
I think they managed to make some crazy negative situation. They turned it into great comedy in this movie.
Yeah, and it worked really well because a lot of people would have been wondering, where is Charles Deetz? You know, he's in the whole movie in the original film. He's a part of that.
He's in this whole movie too.
So
yeah,
it was smart to, you know, not disappear, not eliminate the character, have the character in, but also give him a horrific death, which he deserves, and then make something comical out of it.
but also whoever came up with the great idea of you can't have another actor play him. Hence, his image is only an image in the movie, whether it be on the tombstone or whatever.
Yeah.
You can't have another actor actually portray him because it would be a different person. So how about we just bite his head off?
It's smart.
And so when he's in the movie, he has no head. I thought it was. I was like, this is a brilliant way to do it. This is really good.
You can disguise the voice with just the head's gone, so it's the voice is coming through the trachea that's been cut in half.
And the blood spraying out.
So it's close enough.
Yeah, I thought it was honestly a brilliant way to get out, to basically dodge that bullet. It was great.
They dodged it and then they shot it back.
Yeah,
That's what they did.
They shot it with the bazooka.
Now, obviously, Charles Deetz's death brings the whole family back to the Winter River, their old town that they used to live in their old house, the ghost house, where Lydia grew up after her parents bought it. And so, like Anthony said, Lydia Deetz is now the host of Ghost House. With Lydia Deetz, she's a famous paranormal celebrity. Her daughter, Astrid, absolutely hates her guts and goes to a very fancy boarding school. And
they're estranged already.
They're basically estranged because her father and Lydia's husband passed away, was killed on a trip in the rainforest, eaten by piranhas. And Astrid hates Lydia because she can see all these ghosts except for the one that she actually cares about. And she doesn't believe that her mother can actually see ghosts, and thinks that she'd rather spend time with ghosts than her daughter. And then we have, like Anthony said, Delia, who is this insanely famous and pretentious artist. Very, very successful, going off the success of the ghost house that she bought in the original film. Lydia now has a boyfriend named Rory, who we find out to be putting on this facade of likeness and weakness and empathy, and just trying to be a good guy with a man bun, who really is just a snake after all of her money.
I love Thoreau in this movie. He was cracking me up.
Justin Thoreau.
Honestly, Keaton's amazing. But aside from Keaton, I really do think Thoreau and Catherine O'Hara helped maintain the humor in this movie and keep it highly entertaining throughout the entire course of the film.
Catherine O'Hara is so funny in the first one, too.
She's great.
And so the main plot is, as they're all back at their old home in Winter River, Lydia starts to get little hints at Beetlejuice. She's already seeing Beetlejuice here and there. She sees Beetlejuice in the audience.
Tyler
during
Durden
one of those
style.
shows. Yeah. Joker style. And then she sees the pamphlet of the Beetlejuice advertisements in the attic when Ashley goes up there. And so Beetlejuice is starting to haunt the family slowly, as well as Beetlejuice is stuck in the afterlife at a managerial position, and he sort of hasn't had any character development at all, which is, I think, the best part of the character. Is he hasn't changed. He's still a scumbag, hilarious demon who's out for nefarious actions.
You don't want
marriage.
Beetlejuice to change and grow. That's a great point. You don't want him to change. You want him to always be who he is.
And we have a couple big main plots here with the afterlife, where Beetlejuice is needed by Lydia to save Astrid, who is tricked by another ghost in the town of swapping lives with her so that he can come back to life, and she gets stuck in the afterlife. So she calls upon the help of Beetlejuice to save her daughter from the afterlife, as well as Beetlejuice's ex-wife. We get a little origin story of Beetlejuice is coming after him to suck his soul from him.
I love we got the flashback of how Beetlejuice died. He was a grave robber. And then Monica Bellucci's character, Dolores, who he falls in love with and marries him on the pretense that she's actually a demon-sucking witch, and kills him, poisons him with wine. I loved it. It was in Italian. It was black and white.
Yeah,
it was also filmed the framing was very 1940s, 30s. So I really loved that black and white flashback. It was so much fun. And it was the kind of creativity that I wanted in this movie. I didn't want them to just make it a mainstream movie and just try to make some bucks. Like, I thought it was really cool for Tim Burton to be like, let's do this really cool black and white sequence in Italian. And I think that was really fun for maybe young people to see something like that in a big movie like this, and to be more creative. And like just because it's a big studio film doesn't mean it can't be creative. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, it was really hilarious how Beetlejuice in his office kept speaking in Italian, but it was a voiceover, different actor. It was so funny. I really enjoyed that sequence. Honestly, in my opinion, one of the highlights of the film. And it was fun to see the explanation of how Beetlejuice died. He's always been a bad guy. He's always been like a shady sleazeball, and it makes sense that he was a grave robber back in the day. And also, in the newspaper he's reading, there's a story about ghosts who were falsely called suicide cases. So there's been mistakes happening for millennia of the afterlife misrepresenting people as being suicide cases. So he's one of those cases where they thought he committed suicide, hence why he works as in the for the government, even though he was killed. Civil servant, even though he was killed. It's a fun little Easter egg right there.
Yeah, that's funny, and I liked it because I didn't want an origin story movie.
Yeah,
for Beetlejuice, I didn't need that whole thing, and you can see where maybe some studio exec in the past would have thought that was a good idea, especially now. Let's get an origin story for Beetlejuice. I liked how our origin story for Beetlejuice was 2.5 minutes. It's all we needed.
Yeah,
that's all it was. He was just as repulsive in real life as he is in the afterlife in a lot of ways. And his death is pretty funny, but it also gives the origins of where his wife came from, why his wife's been chopped up into different pieces because she poisoned him, but before he died, he chopped her up with an axe. Mm-hmm. And I liked the start of Dolores. I thought she was a great character in the advertising. I was very excited to see what they would do with this character. This person who's coming and haunting Beetlejuice for a change. You know, Beetlejuice is the one getting haunted in this film.
She wants to suck his soul.
Exactly.
It's like, that's some stakes for Beetlejuice.
So it's almost a slasher movie for a little bit. And she's got all these different powers. She's more powerful than most ghosts, it seems like.
Great introduction, too. Yeah.
Awesome intro where Dan DeVito's cameo is hysterical.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into in a minute. But overall, and I love the character design. You know, she puts herself together with the stapler. It's really funny. It's really camp. The Bee Gees are playing at the same time. It was really fun.
Yeah.
A lot of disco and 70s vibes in this movie.
Soul Train.
Soul Train was a lot. Exactly. Soul Train was super fun. And so Dolores seemed like this very powerful, very scary villain. She's sucking the souls out of people. And I like when she sucks the souls, they just sort of get scrunched up like a balloon or something.
and they fall.
Yeah, it's really camp.
It reminded me of Under the Skin.
Yeah, it worked really well. I really enjyed that. It was very campy and fun.
It was great.
Yeah.
Where he's like drinking like Drano gel.
It's like detergent, yeah. But overall, Dolores ended up kind of being a non-factor in the movie, and she was an underwhelming villain at the end of the film. I was expecting this big battle between her and Beetlejuice or a big showdown, but overall, her end and her demise was very underwhelming, very minimal, and didn't really seem to have any bearing on the plot.
So, I mean, I will say this movie has a villain problem. It's obvious. But that didn't mean that I didn't still love it. And also Jeremy, the other ghost.
Good villain, I think.
Excellent villain, but also he's just... Beetlejuice just marks his stamp and shoots him down to hell.
Yeah.
Which I loved, but also it was like very easy to get rid of him. So they actually... I mean, the movie ironically set up two very good villains and then got rid of them like with the snap of a finger.
Literally.
Very easily. And the Dolores one made a little less sense, and it was kind of just like, oh, go with Rory. He'll be with you in the afterlife. And she was like, okay, cool. I think that they realized, okay, we have too much going on, and they didn't really have any way of getting rid of the characters in any meaningful way. I didn't mind it. And I actually kind of laughed about it because, I mean, I'm not looking for, like I said, an Oscar-worthy screenplay. And
well, you don't need to have an Oscar-worthy screenplay to have a good villain.
But also...
I think that she was just way too hyped.
But also, Beetlejuice is still essentially the villain to the Deetz.
100%.
And that's really the big bad for the Deetz, essentially. And it didn't end that much differently from the first Beetlejuice. That movie ends kind of abruptly, too. You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
Sure. So I would say it's not the worst. I think it didn't quite work, but ultimately I still enjoyed it.
No, it's still a great movie. I just think the climax was a bit rushed.
Yeah.
And then the villains just disappearing was underwhelming because I was excited about the villains halfway through. I thought Jeremy was an excellent villain and really unique and a little predictable. As soon as she walked inside his house, I predicted that he was a ghost.
I didn't.
Oh, okay. So I figured
It fooled me.
I thought it was pretty obvious because obviously Jeremy is the boy that Astrid meets because she's at the funeral where Rory proposes to her mother. So cringe.
I guess she said yes.
She said yes. And she takes her bike and goes on a stress relieving ride, crashes into a fence. I thought Astrid was gonna die.
I thought she was gonna die too because she was like she kept almost getting into accidents.
Yeah.
She almost got hit by the car. She almost hit something else, and then she crashed. I was like, is she about to die and go to the afterlife?
I was like, oh, this is how they're going to do it. She's going to get killed, and then she'll get saved by Beetlejuice or something. And so she crashes into this treehouse, and there's a kid inside of it about her age, just like young, cute little kid.
He's not little. He's like 6 foot.
Cute little kid.
This little tiny little boy.
He's a baby. He's a baby.
Well, yeah, he's a young teen. He's young to compare to us, but he's not. He's not little.
Cute little
he's
kid.
He's taller than us.
He's a
James.
cute little kid. Cute little
A
kid.
cute, adorable little child boy.
So this teenage boy, just hanging out, reading comics or whatever, and then they have their little romance, and then she goes
Little meet cute.
Then she goes and sees him the next day, and then for Halloween the following night.
I will say their scenes. It was cute, but every one of their scenes ended with. Their scenes center upon okay, you want to see you tomorrow, and then you want to come over tomorrow. Like every one of their scenes.
What are they even doing?
They sit for a minute and have a little bit of a bonding, and then it's like, okay, do you want to come over tomorrow? It's like the hangout's 35 seconds.
And so the first time that Astrid goes into his house, is the second day when he's waiting for her outside, and he takes her through the house and says, "Oh, that's my dad, that's my mom." And we don't see their faces. We don't see the dad's face because he's watching TV. He goes, "Arr," and then the mom's in the kitchen cleaning or something, but her head's turned the other way, so we can't see her face. And I think she's vacuuming or sweeping. And they say, "Oh, hey, honey," and then they go upstairs. As soon as that happened, I'm like, he's a ghost because clearly his parents are ghosts,
and they're hiding themselves.
He's probably a ghost. Yeah. Not that I think Tim Burton's hiding them from us. Yeah. Because otherwise, why don't we see their faces? Yeah. And Beetlejuice rules. It's for me, that's definitely a ghost. And for me, I didn't expect him to be a murderer. I didn't expect him to have killed his parents.
Great twist.
Which was an awesome twist.
Yeah.
I felt that they did a great job with this performance and this character acted by
he did a great job.
Arthur Conti.
He played a great sociopath.
Arthur Conti was great because he had this great welcoming presence, very soft-spoken, very sweet, seemed very genuine, very safe and innocent, but obviously hiding a darkness inside of him, which was done so well. And when they were floating in the air on Halloween night, I'm like, oh, that solidifies the theory that
when
he's
that
a
happened,
ghost.
Obviously he's a ghost.
But so for me, I knew he was a ghost right away when I saw the parents, and I was just curious how they were gonna do it.
So what threw me off and why I didn't think he was a ghost at first was that he was in his treehouse, outside, and then in the yard, and then in like the backyard. And that kind of contradicted the rules of the first one with the Matilands where they couldn't leave their home. Or else they were put into the dune limbo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when he was outside of his home, I didn't think that he could have been a ghost because he basically broke the rule that the first film established. So for me, that's why I didn't get the twist.
Gotcha.
But there's a lot of great hints to Jeremy being a ghost. And I think, I didn't, after it was revealed, I didn't feel cheated. I wasn't like, but in the first film, they can't even leave their home. I was like, oh, that was a great twist. I didn't see that coming. So I was actually really happy. I thought it was a fun story beat and a great art change for the story direction. So there are some really great hints that he is a ghost. Like you said, the parents not showing their faces, or one side of their face where both of their wounds were. His house is also the only one that's not decorated for Halloween because nobody's actually lived there physically. He never leaves the yard and everything. Also, there's the James Dean costume he wears. His parents said he looked more like Richie Cunningham from Happy Days, which is a really old show and wouldn't make sense for people who were in their 40s in 2024 to reference Happy Days.
I think I was the only one that laughed at that joke.
Honestly, so I went to this movie with our friend Mo. Me and her were cackling the whole time, and I'm not sure if the whole audience really got the humor. most of the time.
Throughout the film?
Throughout the film.
I think the first half, the humor was weak, but it caught up really strong.
Yeah, I think that I was laughing throughout, and I was just having a lot of fun. But there were jokes like that, and a bunch of the other good jokes, in my opinion, were really strong. But really, we were the only ones laughing out of a packed house. That's why I think that this movie's getting such mixed reactions. I'm not sure the humor translated for everyone.
The thing with Beetlejuice, the original, it's not like the humor was cackling, gut-busting humor, maybe a couple here and there. For the most part, the jokes in the original Beetlejuice are just little chuckles.
Yeah.
Like that.
So another hint is when Astrid crashes through the fence, she apologized about breaking the fence, and Jeremy says, "Oh, don't worry, my parents won't even notice it." I thought he was implying, his parents don't care at all about him.
Yeah.
They barely notice he's there. So that's what I thought that was. Oh, the quick shots we see of the interior in the kitchen and living room show that there's nothing in terms of modern day technology in the home. So the aesthetics, the retro kitchen design, the wood panels, it's a CRT TV playing, Wheel of Fortune, an old episode.
Oh my gosh.
And so all of the technology, there's memorabilia, his record collection, Jeremy's room, all of the records and all the band's posters, it's all 90s pop culture.
That's right, yeah.
So
she says like you like 90s music.
Exactly. It looks like he's a cool hipster kid who loves the 90s, but it's really he's a 90s kid like us.
A cool hipster kid.
It's cool to like that stuff, you know what I mean?
So I love Matchbox 20, man.
Limp Bizkit, dog. So all of the interior design of the kitchen, living room, and Jeremy's bedroom, it's all technology, furniture, and popular culture references to the 90s.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
But overall, really good villain. I was expecting him to have a longer runtime as a villain. I was expecting him to be the full length of the film almost.
I was like, I agree. I thought he was going to be a big bad.
He had a great plan.
Yeah.
You know, the first person that's actually seen me, Astrid, this girl. And what's my plan? How do I swap bodies with her? Because I know there's this loophole. I know there's this rule in the book for the recently deceased or recently diseased, if you're Beetlejuice. Or I mean, if you're Adam from the first one.
Yeah.
Where you can say this incantation, and if you have a living person with you, you can bring them into the afterlife, and you swap. You come into the living, and they take your place in the afterlife and become dead. And he has a great plan of tricking her by using his sweetness, his innocence, and this charm to lure her. Obviously, the first date she's ever been on, the first boy she's probably ever talked to, and lures her into this trap of going into the afterlife by saying that after learning about her in her past, I can show you your father. You can see your father again by saying this. I can take you into the afterlife, just say this incantation, and I can bring you to your dad. Obviously, Astrid doesn't know that she's going to swap souls with him, but it's a really excellent plan for him to get into the living by tricking Astrid.
I think it was a great plan. And I also, oh, bless you. My biggest qualm to the film is that he gets taken out so quickly.
It's funny the way he dies.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I love the immigration sequence. I love how they have this immigration clerk area where people are coming in for different reasons, and there's different clerical ways. Like this is like a system. What Jeremy's doing, like this is a system thing, and it's the bureaucracy of the afterlife is expanded on. Like there's this process. Like if you want to swap bodies, you need to get this certain stamp from this clerk. So I really love the bureaucracy expansion in the film of the afterlife, and I thought it was really great how Beetlejuice. He just pops up and he's like, I can't remember what he said. He says a great one-liner, and then sends him straight down to hell. And Jeremy screaming as he's falling into the fiery pits of hell. I thought it was so satisfying. However, I think it happened so quickly. But it was just, I mean, I think they realized, you know what, this movie has to end with Beetlejuice being the climactic villain for Lydia, and again setting it up with the marriage once again. So. I didn't mind it, but I wish, like you said, Jeremy lasted throughout the rest of the film. He could have maybe countered their defense with another attack against the Deetz. Could have been in something interesting.
Yeah, possibly.
Maybe he could have teamed up with Dolores or something. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. But there's something else missing from this film from the first film, and it's the Matilands. And they have a quick line of dialogue where Lydia tells her daughter, when Astrid asks about the Matilands, Lydia says, "Oh, we got them out of the house due to a loophole." Now, it's just a quick one-off line. I didn't mind not having them here. They're making a new story. Also, if you're going to have the Maitlands, they can't have aged. This movie was made 36 years ago. You know, Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin look very different. I think de-aging them would have looked way too noticeable and maybe would have looked awful and probably would have ballooned the budget a ton. And so it makes sense, I think, that not having the Maitlands works for the film because, again, they should look like they're 28 still, but they're not. You know what I mean? So, again, it was a quick throwaway line. I didn't love the quick throwaway. I would have loved maybe something a little better of explaining it. However, it is what it is. It still worked fine.
We didn't need them.
Didn't need them.
We didn't need them at all. They're just too old.
Too old.
They're too old.
It doesn't make sense.
We don't need them. Then I think the plot would have had way too many characters. If you have the Maitlands in there, they need to be pretty prominent characters.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do the exact same movie, even though there's a similar blueprint between Beetlejuice and then Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Obviously, this large plot with a wedding. First film, large plot with a wedding. Overall, I think it's important not to tell the exact same story.
We did get to see them in the film, though. Did you see them?
Were they in like a photo?
In the model intro, the camera pans up the model of the town, and the Maitlands are on a little riverbed. In their original outfits.
No way.
Yeah,
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's right in the opening credits of him panning across the model of the town.
Man, I did not even pick up on
so
that.
they are in the movie technically. But I do love the new characters. Like, again, Jeremy was a great character. Dolores was a great character at first. And then Willem Dafoe as Wolf Jackson and Justin Theroux as Rory, on top of, obviously, Jenna Ortega as Astrid. But I loved Willem Dafoe as Wolf Jackson.
It's so freaking funny. This ghost detective.
Yeah, I wish there was more of him.
Yeah.
I wish he had.
He was in a lot of it, though.
Yeah, but I wish he was more centered upon the plot. He was really just tracking down Dolores. Willem Dafoe.
And Beetlejuice.
Yeah, he stole every scene. And he was... I love when actors make fun of actors and how full of themselves they can sometimes be. And he's like this egomaniac, and he played a detective successfully in movies. He had a franchise as Wolf Jackson. He has the slogan. I can't remember what his slogan is, but every time he says it, he cracks me up. He said it at the end. He said, "Remember." What's his fucking tagline? I can't remember. He said it to Astrid. I fucking cackled out loud. It was so funny. And I love the design. He was on a set and he was bragging. He died because he egotistically did his own stunts when it wasn't safe, obviously. And he died because during the filming of an action scene, he jumped beside a live grenade, and it obviously blew his head open.
Who knew that it was a live grenade?
Who would have known it was live? And I loved his character. He was so funny. A welcome addition, and again, expanding on the world of the afterlife, that there's a police force, that there are detectives. And I love the fact that he's not a real detective, but he has cue cards when he's talking to the line of police officers with this huge monologue and inspirational speech, and then it reveals the cue cards behind the guys. Oh my god, I was dying. I think that was the best joke of the movie. It was hilarious.
It was a great character. All the new characters were great. Wolf Jackson, Willem Dafoe, iconic, and it's so funny to watch because you realize he really could have pulled off that kind of movie or that kind of TV show back in the day. If he was born at the right time, if he was born maybe 20 years earlier, maybe Willem Dafoe would have been a B-cop action star.
Yeah.
Because he really nailed it, man. He nailed the punchlines. He nailed the fake confidence, the gravitas. And I like his character design where half of his skull has been blown open. Really funny. And then we also, great cameo from Danny DeVito in this film, who plays an afterlife janitor who died by suicide from drinking varnish, which I believe is a cleaner.
Varnish is a polisher, right?
Polisher? Yeah. And what it's so funny because we have that iconic shot of the distorted hallway. Mm-hmm. The checkered floor, obviously based off German Expressionism films, silent films in the back in the day. And in the first film, there's a janitor. We don't really see his face, but he does say a line like third door on the left or something like that to the Maitlands as they're walking through that hallway for the first time.
He shows them the afterlife of ghosts, of souls. Yeah, like the purgatory of souls.
Gotcha. So now we get a little more characterization about this janitor who sees who's the person. It's the Delia's French artist who dies.
Oh yeah, the young guy, the graffiti artist.
Do the live show with, falls to the sewer, dies, has that big bump on his head, which is really funny, like the big lump. And then he bumps into the janitor, and janitor's like, "Go ahead and take a number up ahead." And then we follow the janitor inside of his little room, his cupboard of cleaning supplies. He's chugging the cleaner, and it's freaking Danny DeVito. It's so fun. And then he accidentally triggers an electric shock that brings Dolores back to life in the afterlife, whose body has been chopped up and put in different boxes. And then she obviously kills him, and he's the first soul that she sucks, because it can die in the afterlife. Who knew? And then she puts herself back together with Staples. But Danny DeVito, just a really, really great cameo in this film. But also, I loved Bob in this movie.
Bob was great.
Bob was the zombie or shrinker.
Dude, his credits at the end.
Bob, Brad.
They're like 10 shots of Bob, like it was a memorial. Oh my god, I was dying. It was so funny.
I felt so bad about Bob.
He was so sweet.
Bob was great. He was doing his best he could.
Yeah.
You know, he did whatever Beetlejuice said. He was a good assistant. And I felt so bad. I was so sad when Bob died, when Bob's got his soul shrunk out from Dolores. And when he was trying to do the impersonation of Beetlejuice with the same suit and hair. So effing funny. And, you know, Bob was one of the best parts of the movie. I really like how they went hard on Bob and the design of the shrinkers as a main marketing part of the film.
Yeah.
The marking's all over the place, all over the world with the Bobs, with the shrinker heads, posters.
I met a shrinker.
Live thing. Yeah, Anthony did a video with one of the shrinkers at IMAX headquarters, which was really funny. But I think that the movie needed something like that, sort of like a minion character to really gravitate kids to and connect the film to younger audiences.
It was the droid of a Star Wars movie.
Exactly. I think it was pretty strong. Yeah. But I loved Bob as a zombie, as the shrinker. Man, I was devastated when he got his soul shrunk.
He always looked so worried and concerned, and he's so scared.
So guys, let's get back to work, everybody. And then all the other shrinkers leave.
And then Beetlejuice just puts him in the same striped suit. And he's like, "Now when she comes, I get to run away." It was great. It was super
the same
funny.
hair. And obviously, Beetlejuice is back, and Beetlejuice is working for the government in the afterlife. He's working as an afterlife career management. And I love Beetlejuice in this film so much, but there's something that I didn't love about the character, and for me, it's the lack of outfits. The first film, he's got maybe 10, 12 different outfits, whatever job he's doing, impersonation, whatever joke he's going with, he's wearing different outfits. Whereas obviously we know that the Beetlejuice striped suit is just the most iconic look of the character. Whenever anyone thinks of Beetlejuice, that's what they think of. Halloween costumes, you're wearing the black and white striped suit for Beetlejuice with the hair.
I mean, I love the red wedding suit.
Yeah, the wedding suit's great too.
I think I honestly might like the red wedding suit better than the striped suit.
But I believe in this film we only got 3 looks. We got the suit, we got the therapist outfit, and then we got the wedding outfits. Mm-hmm. And all 3 great looks, but one of the great strengths, I think, to the first film was all of the different looks and sort of characters that he played. You know, in the first one, he's a cowboy sharpshooter in a commercial. He's got that fisherman kind of outfit. He's got so many different looks. And we don't even get the suit until later towards the end of the film in the first film. But I think as a marketing standpoint, for a studio looking at the movie, I get it. You have to have the most iconic look for the character throughout the majority of the film for the audience to come back, for new audience members to come back. It just connects it nostalgia-wise to the story and to the movie. I understand that, but I would have liked to see more looks. Imagine if Beetlejuice was in an office space like a short-sleeve Dwight Schrute outfit in the Office of Management. It would have been really funny. I think it would have worked so well. So I think if he had more outfits, it would have been better. But overall, having Keaton back as Beetlejuice was such a delight. It was so much fun. Every time he was on screen, I was just waiting on bated breath what was going to happen, because he is just an incredible character, and Keaton's the man.
Yeah, and the makeup looks better than ever. Obviously, the technology involved with prosthetics and makeup and hair have improved so much, and it looked. I think the makeup looked amazing. I totally agree. When he got into the sweater, when he finally got into the red wedding suit, I was happy he was in the red wedding suit. So I totally agree. Everything about Beetlejuice was perfect except for the lack of costumes and lack of outfits, because that's the part of the fun of him, of always changing his characterization, changing his personality, and just messing with people. So there wasn't enough of that messing with people, but they did add something different to this film that the other film didn't have. He broke the fourth wall a few times. He spoke right to the audience a few times, and it really worked. It wasn't much. It wasn't like Fleabag, and it wasn't like all these new TV shows and movies that are obsessed with breaking the fourth wall endlessly. He did it a few times, a couple of looks to the camera and a couple of lines to the camera, and I thought it was really fun. and it worked for something. I think because it's a legacy sequel. I think he was just like, it was like we were hanging out with Beetlejuice again.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like there maybe might have been too many fourth wall breaks. I feel like I counted 4, maybe 5.
Maybe I didn't think there were that many, but maybe there were 4 or 5. But I loved them, honestly.
I think 1 or 2 was good, but after I think that, I was like, I think this is too much fourth wall breaking.
No, I was good with it.
But it's still fun. I get it. It was still fun.
And we got him sitting in the waiting room again between 2 different corpses, and there's the lady with the cats, the cat lady, and then there's a guy. I loved it. He was the eating contest, the
hot dog,
and he had
contest.
like 20 hot dogs in his mouth. I thought that was so hysterical, and so they were just being super creative. Like, how can we make dead people look really funny? It was just, I loved it, and Keaton was fantastic. It's so great to see him back, and I think he had a lot of fun with this movie. It just looked like a really absolute blast of a time making a film, and then also Delia getting killed, in a ridiculous way of getting 2 snakes, which she thought were defanged and no longer venomous, to do the ceremonial video for her husband, for her vlog. And then she holds the snakes up and they obviously bite her neck and kill her immediately. So funny. And I loved her unwillingness to accept where she was in the afterlife. And she's like, no, there's been a mistake. There's been a mistake.
And then Astrid tells her, your art's going to be worth so much more. She's like, oh, really?
Then she accepts it. I thought it was so funny. It was great to see her in the afterlife. And you predicted that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, I didn't predict it because I saw an image of her sitting in the waiting room.
I thought that the whole family, because Lydia and Astrid were clearly also in the afterlife in the trailer, so I thought it was something like that, like the whole family wound up there, breaking the boundary.
I didn't know how they were going to get the Lydia and Astrid in there. Obviously, they came up with a great idea, but Delia, I figured, was dead because she literally was sitting in the waiting lounge.
You're right.
Versus
waiting
Astrid
there.
wasn't sitting anywhere.
Oh, good point.
So she had to take her number and sit down.
And I also love a little bit more expansion on doorways, where Beetlejuice, to break back into the afterlife, he draws a bomb on the brick wall. And then with chalk, he makes a huge line for the match, and then he lights the fuse.
Can't just use the front door.
Can't just use the front door. And I loved it. And then it cuts to the side of the office, and the explosion in the wall. I was like, once that happened, I was like, I'm all aboard for this movie. This is really fun.
It was fun, and there's still so much to talk about, but how about we head to our intermission, Anthony?
Yes.
We'll come back and talk more about Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice now, before we continue, the very best way to support Raiders of the Lost podcast, besides listening to us consistently, is to become a patron today at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost podcast. Patreon is the only reason we can do the show full time. Our supporters allow us to do it and make us all this content for you guys every single week. You get access to weekly bonus episodes of the show. You get access to the ad-free version of every single episode. You also get access to our Discord. Plus, many, many other perks are available on Patreon at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost podcast. Be sure to sign up today. We thank you, all of our future, past, and present patrons. Another great way to support the show. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. These Apple and Spotify ratings help us get charted higher and higher every month on the podcast platforms. They help us get seen by new people, add reputability, because people see, oh, they got a bunch of ratings. I'm going to check that show out. It's just the way it is. And we're very grateful for all those ratings. And at 5,000 Apple ratings, I'm going to get a tattoo of Anthony's choice. Hopefully, it's not Beetlejuice related. Hopefully. And another great way to support the show. Not the final way. There's so many things to do. But if you just share us with your family and friends, it'd be very beneficial for us because organic growth is best served by word of mouth. Sharing our podcast posts on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, sharing our episodes with those you love that love cinema and love movies or love Beetlejuice. Love is the best way for our show to grow.
This episode, of course, is sponsored by our friends at movieposters.com, the #1 place to get your posters online today. Be sure to use our promo code Raiders10 at movieposters.com to get 10% off your order right now. They have a huge selection of pretty much every movie and TV show imaginable in their poster library, as well as all sorts of sizes, framing, and even backlighting for your poster needs. Movieposters.com is doing a movie poster giveaway in this episode. Now, if you want to enter for a chance to win a free movie poster of your choosing, all you have to do is go into the YouTube version of this Beetlejuice episode, leave a comment, any comment in the comment section, and that enters you automatically into a chance to win a free poster from movieposters.com. Again, leave a comment in the YouTube episode of Beetlejuice Beetlejuice to enter this contest. They are the number one place to get your posters online today. Huge selections. If you love Beetlejuice, go to movieposters.com and use our promo code Raiders10 to get 10% off your order of posters today.
All right, let's get into our intermission, Anthony.
Let's do it.
Are you ready for Framed?
Oh, yeah. Let me pull it up, man.
Let's do framed.wtf and find out what today's movie is and see who gets it first. So we have a wide shot of what looks like a battle from a Revolutionary War, possibly Civil War. I'm going to guess, is this the Alamo?
I got it.
Oh, wait, no, this is Dances with Wolves.
Yep.
Let me double check. I don't need ads. Yep, we both got it. First try. High five in the air. It's a tie. Dances with Wolves. Let's see what the other images are. Yep, the horses with the indigenous tribe. All right, some Union soldiers. There's a wolf with the back of Kevin Costner. Kevin Costner, obvious. Bada bing, bada boom.
Bam.
Cool. That was pretty easy.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it's easy, but
sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard.
Yeah. It clearly looked like Civil War.
That's just the opening with the horse where he's riding around like a maniac trying to die.
Yeah.
And he charges the army, trying to get them to shoot him.
All right, Anthony. Let's begin the rest of our intermission with our movie quote competition. Are you ready?
Ready.
I hope you are. My father used to tell me that artists use lies to tell the truth while politicians use them to cover up the truth. A man after my own heart.
I don't know. Say it again.
My father used to tell me that artists use lies to tell the truth, while politicians use them to cover up the truth. A man after my own heart.
It's a pretty accurate statement. What is it?
V for Vendetta.
That sounds like something EV&V would talk about. It's true. That's very true.
It's true, man.
It's true, man. All right, here's my quote. Rufus, Brent, and Mikas were like brothers to me. And when I say brother, I don't mean like an actual brother, but I mean like in the way black people use it, which is more meaningful, I think.
Or do you think I wouldn't know what a googly is?
A Googleizer? One who speaks at a funeral?
He wears all white at the funeral. Like in Zoolander, man.
That movie is a 6.5 on IMDb.
I mean, it's a 2000s comedy.
Dude, it's so funny.
I know it's funny, but I mean, what do you expect it to be? If that's
over 7 at least.
I mean, what do you want, man?
It's one of the best comedies.
It is up there for
it's
the
one
century.
Of the best comedies.
But I mean, comedies never get high ratings.
True.
Seldom.
True. Anchorman's a 7-1.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great comedy too.
Yeah. I think Zoolander's brilliant.
They're just dumb movies that are so fun and that we love and we've seen 30 times.
Zoolander's so funny.
It absolutely is. Anthony, time for guessing the movie release here. When did Kingdom of Heaven come out?
2006.
2005. Almost.
Sorry,
man.
Ridley.
Almost.
What year did Zoolander come out?
2001.
2001's correct.
Yes.
Well done. Well done.
Got it. Anthony, movie pop quiz.
Mm-hmm.
Who directed Shrek, Shrek 2, and the Chronicles of Narnia films?
I'm gonna say Weitz. Chris Weitz?
No.
I don't know.
Andrew Adamson.
Andrew Adamson. I didn't know that a live-action filmmaker made Shrek. Didn't know that. Very cool.
Very, very cool.
What David Lynch films did Justin Theroux star in?
Mulholland Drive. Damn. All I can think of is Mulholland Drive.
Inland Empire as well, with Laura Dern.
Yeah.
Billy
Sides.
Sides.
That's where he plays an actor, right?
He plays an actor in,
Yeah,
in Mulholland Drive.
Oh, yeah, Mulholland Drive is an actor.
And in...
No, he's both.
In Inland Empire.
Yeah, both, yeah.
In Mulholland Drive, he's the director.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, that's right. Inland, because I remember, he's on the soundstage with Laura Dern.
Yeah, Inland Empire is about a film. Yeah.
Copy that. All right, got one. Anthony, do we have any haters this week?
Oh, we got a ton, because we haven't recorded in several days. So, okay, here we go.
Several days.
Like it's been ages ago.
We literally did movie news. Oh, but for main episode.
This is from... Oh, sorry, pal. I cut out your name, and I can't remember who sent this. Sorry. On this episode sucked. You guys would not shut up about The Martian. Unsubscribe. It was Curtis.
Was it the Letterboxd recap?
Yeah.
Because I spent a minute talking about it, and then you roasted me about it. That's a good joke.
Pierce Connick. So you're saying there's no need to Venmo James $20 anymore? Unsubscribed. Ryan Loftus. Beetlejuice. Watched half of this. Watched Beetlejuice. Watched another half of this. I watched a quarter of this. Watched Beetlejuice. And then finished this episode. Sublime. But unfortunately, I said Beetlejuice 3 times, so I'll be unsubscribing to the land of the living. Sublime! Sublime! Here's a real hater. I talked about the movie statistics for Beetlejuice's opening in terms of demographics and ages and stuff. Cowboy Curtis wrote, "Quit making up these bullshit stats. Movie theaters aren't keeping track of what effing race you are, what sex you are, or how old you are. This is really becoming pathetic, you guys."
They literally do. Every week you can find box office reports of demos.
Pretty much every major business in every industry knows who their audience is.
If you're not tracking your audience, then you're horrible at business.
Yeah.
That's
It's
the dumbest
ridiculous.
thing. We track our audience too. We know who's listening.
Isn't that insane?
All you have to do is Google that.
You don't
in
think
7 seconds.
people know? You don't think the movie theaters and studios know the demographics of the people seeing their movies? You don't think that?
Every movie they have it.
It's insane.
You can find it in 12 seconds.
ridiculous.
12 seconds you can find it.
Joshua Rain wrote, "Can I get a soundbite of you guys crying like Karen from Goodfellas? Going to use it as a ringtone for my boys."
Ready?
Karen!
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Oh my god, that cracked me up. Okay, here we go. Ace Merritt. So you guys got your podcast name from Indiana Jones, but Anthony hasn't even been on the ride. Sounds like a fake fan. Subscribe.
Great ride. It's a really great ride. Wow, it's an old episode because I went to Disney a while ago and did that ride.
No, we talked about it the other day how I've never been to Disney World.
Disney World?
Yeah, Disneyland.
I've been to Disneyland.
No, we talked about how I've never been there a couple weeks ago.
Did we?
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that was a while ago.
No, it was like last
You
week.
gotta go, man. It's fun. That's a good ride too.
I'll go.
It's a good ride.
JK7777. Just realized you haven't done a Lost in Translation standalone review, and therefore, I will be unsubscribing. Your move.
You're absolutely right. We did a Her and Lost in Translation combined episode.
Boris on our movie news. I like this episode. Thumbs up, resubscribe, winky face. Landon Adamson on 100 Greatest Movies You've Never Seen. I took a shot every time you guys said coming out party, impressive feat of directing, and greatest movie of all time, and I died of alcohol poisoning. Unsubscribed. I wrote, enjoyed the afterlife. He said, I'm hanging out with Beetlejuice.
What episode was that on?
100 Greatest Movies.
Gotcha.
Benny Garreau on movie news. Carmen Electra liked your post, but she unsubscribed. No! That was my reply. No! All right, Ryan Williams on Lord of the Rings.
Kaylee Spaney did yesterday.
Yeah, Kaylee Spaney liked our video. This is a real hater. Ryan Williams, your guys' Lord of the Rings knowledge is lacking. It was depressing.
Is that a real hater?
Real hater.
I know a pretty good amount about the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. It was in our fantasy showdown, so I'm not really sure.
What did we get wrong?
I don't think we didn't
We
talk.
got everything. We didn't. Maybe we mispronounced a name or two, but
I don't know. I said explain. King of the North. Ric Flair was the woo guy, not Randy Savage.
Sorry.
Unsubscribed.
Sorry, yeah.
Ride Space Mountain. Yeah, it was movie news I talked about not being to Disneyland.
Space Mountain's pretty fun too.
I wrote hashtag James was wrong.
You should go. It's a lot of fun. Those aren't even the best. The Guardians of the Galaxy, I think, is the best ride. It is an absolute blast.
Yeah.
It is so goddamn fun. You'll laugh your ass off and have so much fun.
I'll go one day.
Yeah.
I'll go one day.
One day, but
It's so expensive.
Star Wars is no. Honestly, yeah. Star Wars, the big ride there, the Star Wars one is absolutely insane. They literally have 2 AT-AT walkers.
Damn.
Like
cool.
like life size.
That's crazy.
It's the coolest ride you'll ever go on in your life.
Maybe I'll go sometime soon. I'll go after the summer. I mean, after the fall. I'll go in the winter.
Literally go in October. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Boris on Rear Window. What's next? Pre-war movie reviews? You want me to unsubscribe? P.S. Legendary movie. Great discussion. Keep it up. Thanks, pal. Requiem on movie news. Thankfully, you only called Anthony a dickhead 3 times. I was about to unsubscribe on a 4th one.
He was being one.
Richard Kennedy on Rear Window. My camera died. Unsubscribed.
Anthony's camera died on Rear Window. It's pretty funny. So I made a funny graphic where it's just him with a smile on his face.
They played for that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's super funny.
The whole rest of the episode.
It's like when it died on mine several months ago, and I put Tom Cruise on me. It was Tom Cruise for me instead. All right. Also, Richard Kennedy on Rear Window. Perry Mason was a lawyer, not a PI. Unsubscribed.
Ooh.
Also, Richard on Rear Window. An invalid confined to his room. It's invalid. Unsubscribed.
Vocabulary.
Aoife McSweeney. Boys, the comment someone left about sitting apart is a joke reference to a viral Vine. 2 guys in a hot tub 5 feet apart because they are not gay. And we thought it was like a real hate comment. Some girl made. And then Darian Wallace. Michael Scott ate Alfredo during a marathon and you guys can't do it on the podcast. Unsubscribed.
Fettuccine Alfredo.
I'm carbo loading. Vinal. Unsubscribe.
I'm sorry.
Unsubscribing if you don't sit closer to each other. LMAO.
The funny thing about the Alfredo, it's before their race to cure rabies, which has already been cured. And him and Dwight are in the back of the building, like he's like shoving Alfredo down his face, like thinking it's a secret move. He's like, carbo loading.
And then Trish GV, 5 feet apart joke went way over your head. Unsubscribe.
Sure did.
On our Psycho episode, you didn't mention the remake. Unsubscribed from Richard again. Again, Richard on biggest Oscar snubs. Your girlfriend in your bedroom. Unsubscribed. 2001 was in 68, not 64. Oh my God, 2001 lost to Oliver, not Midnight Cowboy. Unsubscribed. Also, Richard on Rear Window. What happened to the touching your mic comment? Unsubscribed.
Thanks for watching, Richard.
I told Richard he's gonna have 10 shoutouts in this episode. Leo wrote, hope you guys get the chance to do an Interstellar screening. The re-release is December 6th.
Woo, that would be cool.
My birthday is December 5th, so if y'all do a contest, I better win or I'll unsubscribe if I don't.
We should reach out to IMAX to either do Interstellar or Gladiator.
Both.
Or both. Yeah, both.
Not either, both.
Because they come out around the same time.
Interstellar is like 2 weeks later, yeah.
2 weeks early. Oh, yeah. Gladiator's November.
October. Or November, yeah. November 12th, I think.
I think you're just saying random numbers.
Here we go with another. This is a real hater on TikTok. S Cosmonaut. Guys, there's a very, on your Rear Window, great clip that you made, by the way.
Thanks.
Guys, there's a very fine line between geek podcast and film class homework. You've kind of crossed over into the latter with this one. This feels like you're satisfying a grade somewhere.
That was a silly comment because I made a clip about how Rear Window, the entire set, was built on a soundstage. So they built 31 apartments, 5 stories tall, and it's just an incredible, remarkable piece of production. Mm-hmm. And I guess we can't talk about it because then it classifies film class homework.
Yeah, you replied simply breaking down the set. And then he replied, it's indulgent. I'd much rather hear a debate on worst sci-fi film father or which community opponent would make the best roommate. And then I replied, not everything is about you.
Going. Goodness. Anyways, I guess you can't talk about Rear Window.
Guess not. We got another really bad hater, Celluloid Humanoid, on our 100 movies episode, the 100 movies you've never seen episode. Dig deeper. Look for underrated gems like Even Dwarfs or Started Small. There's too much ramble here. Do y'all need someone who actually cares and loves movies on your podcast?
Get it? He has celluloid in his name, so that means he's a big film guy.
Film person.
Yeah. Film human.
Film being. I guess, you and I don't care about movies.
The thing with that list, it's not meant to be for movies that no one's ever seen. That's the list for the, like, I've talked to a dozen people who've listened to that episode. They're like, I've only seen one movie on this list. Thanks for making it.
Our survey, the vast majority of people who did the poll have seen less than 20.
Yeah. So it wasn't made for people who've seen every movie ever. It's made for people who like movies, but may not have heard or seen some of the greats.
They also called the episode maddening.
Maddening. Well, thanks for watching.
They also said half of these movies have been released on Criterion.
Okay.
So what?
Is that okay?
What does that have to do with anything? Guess what? They're all on DVD too.
Not everyone has Criterion Channel
or buys the collection DVDs.
This is the thing. Like, just because you've seen a lot of these movies doesn't mean the vast majority of people have. everyone's experience is different. Let's just relax, everybody.
Exactly.
It's just a list.
Also, like,
It's just a fucking list.
Find another channel talking about the 400 blows, blow up, La Ventura, Rosetta.
The funny thing is,
4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days.
People make it seem like just because we or someone else makes a list that it's set in stone. Like, this is the list.
Yeah.
Relax.
We're just two guys.
Make your own list, man.
We're just two bros, dude, who love movies.
Listen, make celluloid. Make your own list. Make a podcast. Make a YouTube channel. Talk about your list. I would love to check it out.
I'm not after that hate comment. I didn't read all of it.
But I'm saying that because they're not going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they're never going to make a list.
I only read the nice parts about their comment. The nicest parts. It actually is worse than that. Anyways, back to Richard. Your videos and your podcasts are the same thing. Unsubscribed.
That's a good point. They absolutely are.
That one killed me. Oh man, that was funny as hell. Thanks, Richard. Richard with the came on fire. Okay, Daniel Oat. Van Gogh?
Yeah, when you said Van Gogh, you said Van Gogh during the episode.
Holy smokes, I could hardly listen to the review of How to Steal a Million because of this hilarious mispronunciation. Thank God you guys don't have an art podcast, because if you do, I'd be unsubscribing.
I forgot to make fun of you during that because I wanted to let you finish, but you definitely said Van Gogh.
Yeah, well, it was just early. But, see, he's making a joke about it. He also said we don't have an art podcast, so it's like he's not surprised that we messed it up. That's it for this
Anthony
week.
makes mistakes, everybody. No one's perfect.
No one's perfect.
I'm perfect, but Anthony's not. Never made a mistake in my life.
Thanks for that humble, modest statement of yours.
You're welcome.
All right, do we have a top 5-star rating today?
Oh, we have a great 5-star review on Apple from Shiv P88. Unsubscribed, 5 stars.
Yes.
I've unsubscribed, then resubscribed, then re-unsubscribed, only to re-resubscribe to let you know that I'll be unsubscribing, then eventually resubscribing.
What a roller coaster.
In all honesty, I've been listening to you two for about a year or two now. Really helped me get back into movies, and for that, I thank you. Best movie podcast in the biz. P.S. Unsubscribed!
And then he'll resubscribe.
That was really clever and funny.
Thanks, pal.
That was really well thought out.
That was great.
Quite a back and forth. Anthony, what is your streaming recommendation for this episode?
The Japanese film Monster, it won the best screenplay at Cannes last year, and it's available on Mubi, which you can either get a Mubi membership or you can get it on Prime. It's fantastic, phenomenal movie. I loved it.
I recommend Joy.
Nice.
Starring Jennifer Lawrence. A really incredible, based on a true story about the rise of a woman to prosperity and fame after the invention of the Miracle Mop. And it's a really good film.
Miracle Mop. Is it called a Miracle Mop?
Miracle Mop.
Miracle. Not Miracle.
I'm American, I say miracle.
That makes no sense.
I know it doesn't. It's a joke.
Miracle Mop. It's a Miracle Mop.
It's a
Miracle Mop.
What we need is a miracle. It's a great flick.
It's a great one.
It's really, really good.
It's really
Bradley
underrated.
Cooper, Jennifer Lawrence,
De Niro,
great chemistry together. Yeah.
Bobby. Who plays the mom? Is it Rossellini?
I can't remember. Okay, let's get back into our episode on Beetlejuice. Now, we've talked about everyone in detail, except for, I would say, Astrid.
Yeah.
So Astrid, played by Jenna Ortega, is Lydia Deetz's daughter. She goes to this boarding school where she focuses on her studies. She's also a bit of a cliche, I think, in contemporary movies. It's consistent where we generally have sort of a generic activist teenager who hates her parents.
Yeah.
That's kind of been a trope, I think, the last 5-10 years.
There's like Hollywood thinks there's only one version of a teenager nowadays.
Yeah, so
And it's
I mean,
getting
obviously
redundant.
it was Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
So many big movies, it's that teenager activist hates their parents. But I think Astrid, as sort of negative as she was in the first 20 minutes, sort of similar to Lydia in the first film, but I think Lydia had this sort of eerie charm.
Yeah, she still had like a quality of like charm to her, I think, yeah.
Astrid, I think, was just so negative at first, but eventually grew on me big time halfway through the film.
I agree. I completely agree. But I do think that, I mean, it doesn't even have to be a big movie, but like horror movies generally, in a lot of Hollywood movies, teenagers are like the same archetype.
They're
and
all-
it gets
repetitive.
really redundant. It's just like, I think that if they gave Astrid a different set of hobbies, it probably would have worked better. But she was great. Ultimately, like
Yeah,
you
Jenna's
said,
a great actress,
once the
yeah.
story got going, I ended up really liking her as a character.
Me too, but it was just a little jarring at first. There's so much negativity, so much hating on parents and on Lydia. I was like, let's tone it down a little bit, guys. Let's tone it down.
Yeah, whereas Lydia's like, oh, I can't stand you.
In the first film.
Yeah, it's just like, but I get it, but it is getting...
It's the style of teenagers in movies and
It's
TV.
the teen archetype right now, and it's just the same thing every time. But that's, I mean, I don't know. I think that's a studio thing.
You know, it's justified from Astrid's perspective to hate her mom because clearly her mother isn't paying her as much of attention as she hopes she would, and spending too much time on her show, looking for ghosts, exploring the realm of ghosts and the undead with her TV show, and with Rory, obviously, this new man in her life who's her manager and her boyfriend. And, of course, the big qualm between them where Astrid doesn't believe that her mother can see ghosts. Because of all the ghosts she can see, she can't see the one that she actually cares about, which is her father, who passed away trying to save the rainforest and got eaten by piranhas. But same kind of thing. I'm trying to save the rainforest. Kind of like another cliche trope sort of guy. It's just, no one cares. Can't you just work at a store?
Can't he just work at a store? Can he just be a small business owner?
Like, you got to be the best human alive. We get it. He's a great guy. We get it.
Oh my god. It is what it is. It is what it is. It gets a little eye rolling.
But it's very sweet when they're reunited.
Yeah.
You know,
It's sweet and also kind of disgusting, too.
Yeah, it's funny. It's so camp.
Yeah.
Obviously, Astrid gets duped. She's in the afterlife. Lydia goes into the afterlife with Beetlejuice to try and find her. And they are all sort of reunited in this little family reunion where Lydia and Astrid, they get connected on the Soul Train. Lydia...
I love the Soul Train.
Soul Train's super
It
fun.
was so funny. So funny.
The dance numbers every time you're in the area. And then they escape and they enter the moon of Saturn where the giant sandworms are. Heavy Dune vibes here because we got a little more detail with the vibrating sand, which was a lot of fun.
Oh my god, the vibrating sand, very Shia Halud.
Definitely
It was
a
great.
Dune reference for sure. And then they get out of there and they're rescued by her father and her husband, who passed away, who's working at immigration.
Her ex-husband.
Yeah.
They divorced before he died.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
They divorced. He saw them at immigration and goes and chases after them, saves them. And they have that cute little sequence inside, like the break room where the drinks are and the concession machine is and everything.
A vending machine
The
and coffee?
Vending machine. Shut up. But it was so funny because he's sitting in the center of them and they're having this really sweet, wholesome, emotional moments. But the piranhas are just shaking and still biting on him. I thought it was really hilarious.
It was really funny.
It was really great.
Like, that's the stuff you want in this movie.
Exactly.
It works perfectly.
It's camp.
Yeah, and I really liked that scene. It was the sweetest scene of the movie, and gave the audience, like, this is the heart of the film. This is the heartbeat, and also allowed Astrid and Lydia to bond finally and rekindle their relationship to be mother and daughter again. But also, you know, I love Lydia in this movie. I think she's a fantastic character because we got that gothic, weirdo, strange chick that we got in the first film, built on top of that. She's middle-aged now. She is a successful, like you said, paranormal celebrity. However, even though her daughter and her having a strange relationship, she does not hesitate to sacrifice herself to save Astrid, and makes the deal with Beetlejuice without okay, if this is what saves my daughter, I will marry you. And that's like gonna suck, but whatever I can do to save my daughter from the afterlife. So I loved it because it gave us the stakes. It showed us the incredible amount of heart that Lydia has, even though she has this surface of goth, uncaring, emotionless, especially in the first film. But having her be a mother in this movie, I think, was really fantastic, and it's vital to her narrative, even propelling forward.
Yeah, they expanded the lore on everyone, not just the world, the characters as well. Obviously, going into the past of Lydia when Astrid discovers the photo album of them when she was pregnant with her, and they were at a horror movie marathon, and her father was exactly the same way. Richard was just like her. He loved the freak, loved the macabre, loved horror. And I thought it was really sweet because being in the attic was a lot of fun, and it took a little while to get there. And what's so fun about this film, in addition to the attic, is obviously Delia knows about Beetlejuice and knows Beetlejuice exists and is real, but she sort of treats Beetlejuice as, just get rid of him. Just ignore him. Don't go up there. Don't go in the attic. And they try to lock it up. But I love being in the attic and seeing the miniature model and finding the photo album was really sweet and wholesome. But also being on the model with Beetlejuice was a lot of fun, where when you say Beetlejuice, 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 and you enter his world, but then you go home, 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 and you go back to where you were, but Beetlejuice is stuck inside the model, and we have the mini Beetlejuice. And when he was singing with the guitar,
Oh my God, it was great.
absolutely hysterical. But I also loved the therapy session where, obviously, Astrid's smart enough to not say Beetlejuice 3 times at this point, because even though she doesn't believe her mom, she thinks her mom's crazy. She's not going to humor it. And then Rory's the one that does it, because Rory and her met at a self-help group or emotional help group, where he obviously preys on women to try to take advantage of them who are in need of solace. And he thinks that Beetlejuice is just trauma it's trauma you have to face.
I knew he was going to say it.
Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. And then they enter his realm and they go into the couples therapy office, which was so hysterical and very fitting.
Let's spill our guts. I'll start first.
I'll start first. And also, we got the entrance of one of the most terrifying, hilarious characters in the movie, which is Baby Beetlejuice.
Great stuff.
Where they're talking about the baby, and then Lydia's belly starts to get ballooned and pregnant, and she gives birth to a horrific little monster baby who terrorizes everything, is nibbling at her leg. And Rory's passed out.
This was like, this is bloody and gory and fucked up. And it's like, I can't believe they got this in a PG-13 movie.
Were there kids at the theater when you went? There were kids too.
Kids,
yeah. I was like, fuck, this is intense stuff.
And especially with the dream sequence at the end, which we'll get to. Which
where we got
very bloody.
Second shot at the baby Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
The baby Beetlejuice was very hysterical. So freaky in the best way possible.
Little Chucky.
But this is one of the best scenes in the movie, I think, because this is Beetlejuice sort of in his realm. This is Freddy Krueger in a dream sequence. He can sort of do whatever he wants. His rules are God. And although Lydia does escape her mouth bounds and is able to say home, home, home and get out of there, until that point, it's such a great time.
I am complete agreement. I think that the therapist scene was one of the highlights of the movie, because we got this disturbing, cringe, tongue-in-cheek humor with crazy, brutal gore and silliness, blood, violence, and I love the guts, the all practical effects. And this is what Beetlejuice is all about, this scene right here. And so when this scene happened, I was so excited. I was laughing. When little baby Beetlejuice was gnawing at her leg, I was cackling. Like, this is exactly what the Beetlejuice movie needs to have.
And he's the same guy. He hasn't learned the error of his ways. He's not a protagonist you're rooting for. He's not a good guy. He hasn't, transformed. He's still just Beetlejuice. Still a scumbag. Still a perv. Still a dickhead. Reference to the intermission. And Beetlejuice hasn't changed a single bit. And he's still in love with Lydia. He still has a portrait of Lydia from her teenage years on his desk. And he hasn't changed one bit. And that's one of the great strengths of the movie, where he's the same guy, ends up having the same plan of trying to marry Lydia at the end of the film. Fortunately, Astrid read the book of the recently deceased
really quickly
and found the loophole. Of all the pages, he found the right page. The loophole that voids their marriage, because Lydia was brought to the afterlife illegally by Beetlejuice, so the contract that she signed for his aid in exchange for marriage is void.
Goes up in flames.
Yeah.
I loved. We needed a big musical sequence again.
Yeah.
And we got it in the wedding chapel. It was great. I loved the entire. They did the whole song. It was like 4-minute song. The dancing, the floating in the air. Again, we got the lip syncing. And when this is the highlight of the film, this is what you want. You want to see another lip synced musical number, and they knocked it out of the park. It was really funny. It was entertaining as hell.
What was the song? It was about a wedding cake.
I think there was. I don't know. I'm gonna guess. I could be wrong. I thought it was an original song Danny Elfman sang. It sounded like Danny Elfman singing, because it had the Jack Skellington. It sounded like him, Danny Elfman singing. And I think it's something he wrote specifically for the scene, because it was about the wedding cake. It was also like the lyrics were very, very specific to this movie. I'm guessing it was an original song that Danny Elfman wrote, produced, and then sang in.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm looking at the playlist right now. Obviously, we have MacArthur Park by Donna Summer. We have Tragedy by the Bee Gees, that great 70s sounds. We have Day-O from Alfie Davis and Sylvia Young Theater School Choir, who sang it at the funeral, which was written by the original artist who wrote Day-O was, what's his name? Day-O. Harry Belafonte. But I liked how the choir, the choir at the funeral sang that.
It's MacArthur Park. It's called MacArthur Park
By Richard Harris.
Written by Jimmy Webb.
The song at the end?
Yeah, the lyrics compare a romance ending to leaving cake out in the rain.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't get Danny Elfman vibes from it, but
I don't know this song, so I thought it was Danny Elfman.
I figured it was original. And even though it wasn't the Maitlands doing it, because the Maitlands do the Day-O sequence in the first film, it still worked and still made sense, and I was expecting something. I'm glad it wasn't Day-O. I'm glad it was something different. And I'm glad it was a song that I've never heard in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me either. It worked really well. I thought it was hilarious, and I loved everybody, the dancing. It was super fun. But yeah, okay, yeah. Richard Harris sang it, written by that guy, Jimmy, whatever I said his name was. Yeah, I never even heard of the song before, but it worked perfectly.
Jimmy two times.
Get the papers.
In the church sequence, it's good.
I loved Wolf running through these tombstones, rolling and then hiding behind tombstones.
Yeah,
it's so funny
with the revolver.
Yeah,
out.
It was great.
Yeah, it's a good sequence because Lydia and Astrid, they escape the afterlife with the help of obviously Richard, and then they make it in time, surprisingly, at the cemetery for their midnight wedding on Halloween night. And everyone's there waiting for them. She shows up, and then obviously Beetlejuice is here because he's here to claim his contract. And the sequence of Beetlejuice sort of having full reign in the real world, it's a lot of fun. I like how they took advantage of new technology, and they didn't stray away from smartphones. Obviously, they're in the film early on, but they had everyone in the church, all the guests, they had their phones out filming everything that's happening because that's what people do these days. If there's an occurrence happening, they got their phones out recording it. God forbid you just see a dog in a park. I gotta take a photo of this dog. I've done that. Beetlejuice has everybody switch. He's like, we need a little privacy, if you don't mind. And he turns their phones around, and they all get sucked into the selfie function of their phone. They're all stuck inside their phones.
Loved it.
Which I thought was a really, really strong metaphor, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe that's Tim Burton's trying to say about smartphones in our lives. That we're just consumed and our souls are kind of inside smartphones these days, if that makes sense. That's
Absolutely.
the way I interpreted that.
Same for me.
That your soul is stuck inside your phone. So I thought that was fun to not stray away from new technology, but use it to your advantage, like a lot of great filmmakers do these days, where some filmmakers avoid it because they don't want to deal with it. They want that classic feel for their movie, but even though smartphones are present in our lives always, it's always odd when you see teenagers or young kids in movies that don't have smartphones in their hands constantly.
Why are they not staring at a phone the entire time? That makes no sense.
And I liked how Burton's like, you know what, let's use it to our advantage, use it as a strength in the film and help enhance this plot and this climax right here. So that was one of my favorite parts of the movie, was all the people getting sucked in their phones.
Loved it. I loved it. And again, Dolores shows up and you think something crazy is going to happen, but then Astrid manages to open the portal to the dune in limbo, and a sandworm comes and takes her and Rory. It was fun. It was cute.
It was fine.
Yeah, it was fine.
I think the sandworm looked better in this movie.
It looked great.
Yeah, and it was still stop motion.
Did you see the behind the scenes of how they filmed the sequence?
Nope.
They had they got a huge soundstage with Winona Ryder and Jenna Ortega, yellow sand, and then just a giant black screen. They didn't even do blue screen or green screen. It was just black curtains.
I think it's probably what they did for the original.
Because that's how they used to do it.
Yeah.
With the rotoscoping or compositing film on top of film, you would film, or like a spaceship, essentially, you would film it either with the black background, so that when you put it on top of another film strip of like a galaxy, the spaceship shows up and nothing from the rest of the frame is going to block out the frame on the bottom. So it's just really old school compositing. I like how they didn't even do green screen. It was just black curtains behind both of them.
It looked great. It looked really great. So the climax, again, it's not as strong as I thought it would be leading up to it, because of the death of Dolores was so quick and easy. And the loophole thing was also so fast. But like you said, it's sort of like the first one.
The first one ends pretty quickly.
They're about to get married.
Yeah.
And Beetlejuice is so excited. He's like, I've been waiting a long time for this.
I always said if I'm going to do it, just do it once.
The costumes are great. Lydia's got the red dress on. He's got the red suit on. And Astrid's there to save her.
Yeah.
That's good.
I didn't mind. Because, again, like I said, the first film ends very quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But ultimately, this film had a second climax and a great finale. And I knew, the dream sequence, did you think it was real?
Up until the pregnancy, up until birth, even before birth. So I thought it was real in terms of, because Astrid talked about how her and her dad were going to do these amazing things. They're going to go all the spookiest places in the world together. And it seems like her and her mom are doing that. And she meets this boy in Transylvania outside Dracula's house. I'm assuming like some Transylvanian guy. They get married. And then they're in the hospital and she's giving birth. So this was the part where I was like, this doesn't feel real, because why is Lydia watching the birth from a window? It seemed a bit odd.
So it was all about how Burton filmed it.
Yeah.
Which was a dead giveaway. It was too positive, too dreamlike, and too perfect. It was her wedding dress that gave it away for me. I was like, there's no way Astrid would wear like that really nice looking wedding dress. There was no Tim Burtonness to it at all. It was a very pure sequence. But everyone around us, the guy next to me, he's like, what's going on? Why is this? He was like shaking his head in disappointment. And I was like, you guys, this is not really happening. And then the hospital room, another dead giveaway was how the hospital room looked. It was massive, huge, and it was like a perfect aesthetic like set. And then, like you said, giant window of Lydia watching. Like, it's like the reality is gone from the set design. It completely gone. And then when little Beetlejuice showed up, it started going crazy. It was insane. I loved it. It was so funny. But it's a reference to Carrie.
Yeah.
The ending of Carrie. Spoilers for Carrie. If you have not seen Carrie, I'm going to spoil it right now. The ending. So
Carrie!
It's Carrie. Fast forward like a minute. And the ending of Carrie is Carrie's dead. And then this girl from school wakes up traumatized. Then there's like this dreamlike positive sequence with her and her mom. And then we got the glowing film. It seems like everything's okay. And then the great ending with she goes to the house and the hand pops up from the earth. Carrie's still alive, and it's this amazing dark ending. Burton was literally referencing the Carrie's dream ending.
I would say not specifically Carrie, because A Nightmare on Elm Street's like that too. I would say he's referencing 80s horror endings.
It could be just generalized horror endings, yeah.
But it was A Nightmare on Elm Street has the same kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Where it's glowing and we did it, we got rid of him, but it's not really over.
Great point. And then they pull up in the car.
The house, yeah.
And then he reaches through the door.
Yeah.
And then the car, I think the first reveal is the car has the stripes.
Yeah.
The Kruger stripes.
Yeah. So I think it's just 80s horror in general. But I thought it was a lot of fun. I was cracking up, and it was a great way to end the movie because it harkens back to the 80s movies. It harkens to people are obsessed with post-credit scenes, and it fulfilled that need. And we get a great little glimpse at Beetlejuice at the end too, where Lydia wakes up in bed. And Beetlejuice is next to her. He's like, I had the weirdest dream.
I fucking died, man. I died when he woke up. She woke up and he was next to her in bed.
And then she wakes up alone for the third time.
It was so funny.
I thought it was a really good ending. And I liked this little dream sequence. It was a great time.
Yeah, I thought it was a great way to end the movie. It was really funny and light. And it ended on a high note, just like the first film did. And honestly, this movie's going to make at least $400 million. I'm guessing it could make up to 600 if it gets good word of mouth and does well overseas. I think they're absolutely poised to make a third film, which is you might as well and get the Beetlejuice for the title. Might as well do it. And I think that we didn't need Beetlejuice 2. I wasn't begging for it. I wasn't desirous of it. However, that being said, it was a good time.
It's fun.
It was fun.
It was fun.
It was light. It was just a fun 2 hours at the theater. Looked great in IMAX. And, I think Tim Burton getting a return to form. Lots of great practical stuff. Good horror. I think it was very creative for a studio picture Very, very creative, and artistic, and overall, I think it was just so well done. And I would not mind seeing a third one now.
I love the cast sizzle reel at the end too.
Oh my god,
the cast
sizzle
sizzle reel was
great.
fun,
But
especially
the Bob,
with the shrunken heads.
but so
Bob, Brad, Steve, like they all had different names.
every shrunken head guy had a shot, but Bob got like 10 shots. It was like 10 shots of Bob. Like it was an in memoriam.
Yeah,
Of Bob.
they knew we were gonna love Bob. Bob
Oh
was
my
the
god,
best.
it was so funny. It was so funny. I loved it.
It was very camp.
I loved it.
Man, it was a good time.
Yeah, it's a good time.
There's one other little thing one little critique I have.
Let's hear it.
And it's about Jeremy
Jeremy. Okay, gotcha.
and his parents,
Mm-hmm.
who he murdered. And a great reveal where it's the same real estate agent from the first film trying to sell the house. And Lydia realizes that she's talking about the house that she can't sell on that one street because there was a murder there. And Jeremy Fraser. And obviously, like I said, when we walk into the house, we don't see his parents' faces. And for me, that was like, oh, this is definitely a ghost house. Now, I was confused at the end of the movie. If he had killed his parents, why aren't they mad at him?
Oh, so I figured that they accepted it and they loved him so much. Like, we're just stuck in this house. Might as well make the most of it. Mm-hmm. That's how I looked at
probably, yeah, I guess it.
it. Yeah. Because it's been 50 years.
Yeah, like 30 years.
30 years.
So, yeah,
It's been 30
What are you
years.
going to do about it?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that
Still our son.
I think that the mom is happy to just be a mom forever, and the dad's happy to watch TV forever.
The undying
They're- yeah.
love of a mother.
Yeah,
Literally undying love.
I think they're both content with the roles to be like that forever, for all eternity. That's how I looked at it.
Damn. Well, that was my other thing.
Jeremy was ruthless, man.
Brutal, dude.
Ruthless. Guy deserved a burn. He got a fitting end.
He did. All right, other than that, I enjoyed this movie. I had a good time.
Yeah, me too, man.
All
I
right.
mean, it's just it's
Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice legacy sequel.
Don't take it too seriously, guys.
Yeah. It's light fun. It's a good time.
Yeah, it's 36 years later. Who cares?
It's just it's September blockbuster. It's a good time.
I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it too, man.
I liked it. Honestly, I wanted a third one.
I gave it a 4-star rating on Letterboxd.
I figured because they called it Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, they're going to make a third one.
They have to now.
And call it Beetlejuice Beetlejuice Beetlejuice.
That's what I just said. Yeah,
Because this is going to be so successful.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know what you
Literally
think.
what I said 2 minutes ago.
I don't know what you
the
think.
entire thing I said, every word.
Personally, that's how I feel. You might feel differently.
There's no way they would do that. They gotta call it Beetlejuice the Third.
Shrek the Third, Beetlejuice the Third. Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice. Beetle thrice.
All right, that wraps our episode on Beetlejuice. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed this one as much as we did. And make sure to check out our Beetlejuice episode we did a week and a half ago on the original, if you haven't tuned into that one yet. Be sure to become a patron today at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple. And take care, everybody.
See you next time.
Thank you for watching Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well, notifications for sure. Listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere you can listen to podcasts. And be sure to check out this other content we have on our YouTube channel.